I'm very pleased to be here with Professor Nathalie Cadeau and Dr. Emma Jones from Canada and the UK respectively. They're both international experts in lawyer wellbeing. They were here in Melbourne as presenters at the Wellness for Law Forum, which the Victorian Legal Services Board and Commissioner was delighted to sponsor. We've taken the opportunity this week to spend a bit more time with Nathalie and Emma and hear a bit more about lawyer wellbeing. Thank you both for being with us. Firstly, to the Wellness for Law Forum. You were both keynote speakers. What were the key messages you shared? Perhaps starting with you, Emma.
The talk I gave was really about the idea that we all know what destination we want to get to with wellbeing. We want people involved in the legal profession and in legal education to be flourishing and to be thriving. But we really need to think about the route we're going to take to get there. And to some extent, that means a little bit of gazing in a crystal ball. We need to think about what the kind of obstacles might be ahead and how we're going to tackle them. And I know that at the moment you're working on a theory of change, which of course is a really good way to do that. So I was thinking particularly about legal education and talking about the need for it to be authentic and values driven in the way it approaches well-being, and raising the point that it can be performative if we're not careful. If people are talking the talk but not walking the walk, both in the profession and in education, then that can engender a kind of cynicism, which actually means that the notion of well-being becomes devalued. I also talked about the fact we need to tackle the kind of narratives around the idea that if we include well-being, we're kind of detracting from legal education, that we're dumbing it down in some way, because actually that just isn't the case. What it might mean is that we start to look at notions like competencies more broadly, and we start to value some things that perhaps haven't always been valued in law around, for example, emotional competence and interpersonal skills. And I also talked about the fact that a lot of this work requires relatedness, it requires connection. We need to work together, we need to build communities of practice, we need to communicate, we need to have the dialogue together. And actually that's really positive, because that can be on a huge scale, internationally, nationally, but actually it means every individual can contribute. One of the things that's come out of my research with lawyers is they say, you know, everybody's so pressurised, everything's so fast, people just don't say please and thank you. So just those little courtesies, just acknowledging people, saying good morning, having those little chats can actually be really beneficial in itself. So I hope I finished on a really positive note when I was talking, because, you know, I do think we are making huge progress around wellness and it's becoming mainstream. It's just about keeping looking at that route and what might be ahead to our destination.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Thank you. Nathalie, what did you cover? What were your key points?
I exchanged about the importance to protect wellness in law, and particularly among young practitioners, because we saw in our national research in Canada how the wellness of young practitioners is compromised. Not only because we founded a high prevalence of psychological distress, burnout, and depressive symptoms, but also because many of them, we saw that their commitment to the profession is compromised. So, and they are the future of the profession, so we have to protect. And to understanding wellness in law, we also shared about the importance to have a more integrative and multidimensional approach to understanding, because sometimes we highlight some measure related at the individual level or at the organizational level, but I think that we have also to taking action at the institutional level, so to have a better understanding and to develop some action who will have impact at every level. I'm a strong believer in small steps, so I think that if we make some small step at every level, we will improve wellness in law. And I also discussed about the importance of mentorship and how some working organization in law specifically are a barrier sometimes to develop some mentorship, particularly in the private sector.
Great. And what were the key messages you took away from the forum?
I heard many times that we have a shift. We are not at individual level now, but we have a systemic change. Yes, it's a systemic change, but we have also to understanding that mental health among lawyers are need action at every level, in the systemic, but also in individual level. And I also heard young practitioners specifically discuss about, everybody in the conference talk about the importance to protect wellness among articling student and among it's law graduate here and among student in law, and we need a cultural shift, but nobody discuss about it at law school. We have to discuss about it and share about it, because if we would like to start a cultural shift, it starts in law school, because they are it's where it starts at the end. Yeah. So it's what I keep.
Yeah, great. And Emma, what key messages did you take away from the forum?
Well, I think the first one follows on from what Natalie's just said, because the forum involved both legal professionals and legal educators together. And I think that was really important, to have that exchange and that understanding that, you know, all aspects of the legal lifespan need to be included in the same conversation, because they all do impact on each other really significantly. And there were people, a lot of clinical legal educators there, which I thought was really good to see, because to some extent they kind of span both sides of that, and they have really valuable insights to bring. So it was great to hear about that as well. I like the fact that the dialogue had definitely moved on from being kind of retroactive and focused on, you know, there are all these problems with well-being, how can we ensure that lawyers survive? And in fact, it is moving on to, well, it goes beyond that. It is about thriving, it is about flourishing, and the fact that there was a real mix of practice and theory. So things like self-determination theory, which is, you know, part of positive psychology, very well evidenced, was used as a basis often in some of the discussions, but also there were these really practical examples of how you can implement some of that theory in really meaningful ways in different settings.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Thank you for that good summary. Thank you.